Yeah.
And so I say to people that like I'm a Bosnian American who grew up in the US because that's where I spent a lot of my years.
Yeah.
Um, but and something you mentioned too is that like your parents didn't really have any African culture at home because they wanted you to fit in. Same with me. Like when we lived in Germany, I did not know anything about Bosnia. Like we did not do any Bosnian. We did everything that was culturally appropriate in Germany.
Yes.
Uh, but and so I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that was the right decision on your parents' part, or do you think that it
Uh,
wasn't?
you know what? Like, I wouldn't do it that way.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chai with Us podcast. This is episode number 45, and you are watching part 2 of our conversation on growing up as third culture kids.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
wouldn't, because I think that one of the most important things in the world is to know, who are you? Where do you
Exactly.
come from?
Yes.
Because there are certain things that you have that you don't even know, but they
Mhm.
come from the culture where
Yes.
you were brought to life, right?
Mhm.
So you were born in this place. And it is the sum, like, I grew up for some years not knowing anything about my father.
Okay.
Like, I know my father better now that he passed away than ever.
Mhm.
It's crazy. But you know what? When you lack information about where you're from, who brought you here, like, there is kind of a hole inside.
Yes. Yes. I
And
agree.
what your parents don't know is that they already have that part covered. Even if they
Mhm.
don't like that part, they are like, okay, so they read the book and they said, I don't like this book. Let me create a new chapter. But for us, it's hard to create a new chapter when you don't have, like, what happened, you know?
Mhm.
And for me as a person, it was very important to start learning more about the African culture, um, and start to learn more about how do people from where I come from, how are, like, how they are, how they
Yes.
dress, how they talk, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It seems
Mhm.
very silly because you are who you are, but knowing where you come
Mhm.
from, you don't have to go back, you don't have to be like them, you don't have to do any of that. But I think
Mhm.
it's very important for you to know your culture,
Mhm.
and especially uh, for Black people,
Yes.
that our culture has been hidden and hidden and hidden and denied.
Mhm.
It is
Mhm.
freaking important, you
Yes.
know? Like, it's not fair for a girl to grow up thinking that, your skin is wrong, that
Mhm.
your hair is not right, you know?
Mhm.
3 years
Yeah.
ago, I was fighting with my mom, not fighting, but like, because of my hair. And I'm talking about 3 years ago, you
Okay.
know? And so certain things, I think it's important for you to know where you come from.
I agree.
Like the good and the bad. Was Angola like in a bad situation? War, you know? Yes, it was. There was a civil
Mhm.
war, and you have no idea how important it was for me. Just understand the fact that my dad went to war when he
Mhm.
was adolescent, you know?
Mhm.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Just per se, it explains a lot.
Mhm.
And so, yes, absolutely, I wouldn't do it that way. I
Mhm.
understand why. Racism was more extreme, so you wanted to just
Mhm.
hide and blend in, and pretend
Mhm.
that you belong here. But
Mhm.
some people can pass, but
Mhm.
not me. I'm
Yeah.
black. I'm undeniably black. So I don't agree with the decision. I
Yeah.
understand. I don't agree.
I agree with everything that you said. I would not do it that way either. I think it's so important to know more about your own culture, where you grew up, to know your roots because I really didn't. And now I feel like the last 4 years I've been going to Bosnia and spending a month or 2 months there in the summers, and I feel like I've gotten much closer to my family because of it. And now I feel like I have an understanding like why do these people think the way that they think? Before I just
Yes.
didn't get it and now I do. Would you have you been back to Angola since you moved?
Not yet. I
Okay.
have. I have. Probably this year or last year or next year, I am going to go. Definitely.
Okay.
I already had a fight on it, so people don't want me to go. But
Okay.
It's going to happen. I do have
Hmm.
plans of going somewhere else first, and I need to get that sorted.
Yeah.
But yes, I am definitely going.
That's great. I think it's important to visit your host country for yourself
It
to see where you came
is.
from.
It is. It is. It. I don't care what I'm going to find. Like I just want to know the truth. You know what I mean? Just like
Yes.
I just want to go there. Like what? You know, a lot of people live
Hmm.
there. What's the matter?
Yeah. But there's some benefits to being a third culture kid, which are that like we're much more open. We know that there's more than one way of doing things
Yeah.
because we experience that ourselves. We tend to be more cultural, more culturally aware, more sensitive to immigrants and people of other cultures.
Hmm.
We tend to cope with change much better. Not
Oh yes.
everyone, but I think a lot of kids do because they know that like things can happen, and that change is inevitable.
Yeah, I think we're more flexible, you know, in
Yes,
those
more adaptable.
situations, more adaptable for sure.
Mhm.
Um, and
Mhm.
and I think that like there's this richness of being
Yes.
from everywhere and nowhere. Like we can have a conversation on pretty much anything because we
Exactly.
know a little bit of everything. We're not experts, like,
Uh-huh.
but we know a little bit of everything. And look at us, like you are a white woman from Bosnia.
Mhm.
I'm a black
Mhm.
woman from Angola. Like
Yes,
we're having a conversation. We have so many things in common, and we can always find something in common.
exactly.
And that's I think that's the beautiful of being a children of a third culture. Like
Yes,
seriously,
I agree.
it's
Hmm. And
beautiful.
it allows you, developing that third culture, you get to choose what you want. So you get to take the
Mhm.
best of both cultures and pick and choose what my culture will be. And when I raise my kids, I thought a lot about this. Is like I want them to be able to speak Serbo-Croatian to their grandparents. So I will teach them how to speak so that they can communicate with their parents in their native tongue. It's not a language that you use anywhere else in the world, but I think it's important
Doesn't
for them to be
matter.
able to speak.
That's
You know what I
beautiful.
mean?
Yeah, that is beautiful. I speak to
Yeah.
my dog in Portuguese. I just
Well, let me ask you this.
oh
So I always
oh
get asked this. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, just to clear it up. In Angola, Angola was a colony from Portuguese, okay, from the
Yes.
Portuguese. So we speak Portuguese, all right.
Uh,
We have other dialects that right now I think they shouldn't be dialects. They should be languages because they
yes.
are, they're from there, the origin. But that's another
Yes.
conversation. But we do speak Portuguese, and we have a few dialects and I don't speak them at all. But we have like some words that we insert into the Portuguese language,
Mhm.
make it like
Mhm.
very Angolan, I would say.
So let me ask you this. This is a question I always got asked when I was younger, and they always would ask, "What language do you think in?"
Eesh, it's a mess. It's a freaking mess. Don't ask me. I have no like right now we're speaking in English, so I'm speaking in English.
Yes.
When I
Yes.
was telling you about the words that we insert in the Portuguese vocabulary, I was
Uh
thinking
huh.
a little bit of Portuguese and some
Uh huh.
examples, but right now my mind is in English.
Okay.
Okay. But it happens throughout the day that I would think something in Spanish, and I would think something in Portuguese, and I would think something in English.
Yes.
Just like a
Mhm.
freaking mess.
Mhm.
And you know what's the worst thing? Before, I used to write only in Portuguese,
Okay.
and if I wanted to write in English, I would intentionally write in English. But right now, I cannot write like a normal person.
Okay.
I have like three sentences in Portuguese, and then I start writing in English, and then I insert like the Spanish slang. A mess.
I
How
know, I know
about you?
exactly what you mean. So for me, I always say people is like that. I don't think in a language. Like if I look at a tomato, I know in myself that is a tomato. I don't say, oh, it's a tomato in this, it's a tomato in German, it's a tomato in Bosnian.
You
No,
don't?
I just no. I just know that it's a tomato, and that's the end of the story.
Ah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I always used to get asked that question, and for the most part, if I'm like talking to myself, I think a lot of times it's in English, but sometimes it's in Bosnian too. But like because I don't speak Bosnian all the time,
Okay.
sometimes it's difficult for like to think of the word. Whereas opposed to in English, I can think of the word immediately because it's my primary language.
Okay, that was so
Yeah.
interesting, and it got me thinking because I look at things. No, I say the thing. Yeah,
Do
I
you?
will.
Okay.
I talk to myself a lot. Even
Okay.
if it is out loud or in my head, I talk to myself a lot.
Uh-huh.
So I'll be like describing stuff. For example, this is a T. It says lo único imposible es lo que no intentas. This is what I do in my brain. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
is.
God, I'm not normal.
No, you are. Like we're all this we're what I love about it is that what you said earlier is that because of globalization, before people only used to move because of civil war, they were
Yeah.
immigrants, or maybe they were children of military parents or missionaries
Hmm.
or expats. And now because we have such a globalization happening, more parents are working in different countries and taking their kids along, that
Yeah.
this is becoming almost the norm. And I think I read somewhere that like we are 1/5 of the world population, like of people that are living outside of their parents' country.
Yeah. If you think about it, there's a lot of us right now. Like
Yes.
it's crazy how people are just moving around. And the
And I
more I
think it's
look
going to
for
become
it,
even more.
yes, it's becoming even more because people are like,
Mhm.
what kind of life do I want to live? And then they just go
Mhm.
to the place where this life is possible.
Mhm. What about you? Do you see yourself settling down and staying in one place, or do you think you'll move around more?
Okay, so um I was tired of moving around.
Okay.
So I settled in Tenerife, and it has been 6 years and a little bit more. So it's
I
like,
told you it said 6 years.
oh
It
my
said six
God, do I
years.
have a 6 year pattern?
Maybe.
I may have a 6 year pattern. But I'm kind of changing my mind right now. So I will probably move.
Okay.
But let me say that when I say I will move, it's like we will move, like with my boyfriend,
Mhm.
right? He's my
Mhm.
family, and Bonnie, my dog. So we will probably move, but
Okay.
we will have our roots
Mhm.
here. Yeah.
Okay.
So we will have this like as a base, like to come back if
Mhm.
we want to have a little bit of a, European situation,
Yeah. Mhm.
and or if things go wrong, like
Mhm.
this is our place, this is our
Mhm.
thing. But yeah, I was tired of moving around, and it was limiting myself.
Yes. Mhm.
So I got over it now, and I'm like, what kind of life do I want to live? And
Mhm.
is the life where I can do whatever the f I want. So
Mhm.
that implies moving and setting the ground to do better, to be in
Mhm.
purpose. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So well, I guess I am a true Gemini. I am a true children of a third culture. I'm,
Yes, for sure.
me.
And I
Mhm.
love that because we have, like you just said, I'm a white woman from Bosnia, you're a black woman from Africa, and yet we've had the same life story. We
Yes.
both left the country of civil war. We both grew up in a place that's not the country where our parents were born, and yet we have so much of the same experience. And I think that's where like
Yeah.
you build relationships because now I feel close to you, and I feel this sense of belonging of like we belong to
Yes.
something.
Yeah. And it's like, I learned how to do not attach my sense of belonging to things and places,
Yes, I
right?
agree.
I almost fell into this trap, but
Mhm.
like my purpose and my spark is bigger
Mhm.
than this. Like there's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with settling, seriously. If that
Yes.
makes you happy, that's totally fine. It's just like when we have our sense of belonging to like a place,
Mhm.
it's just like it's kind of limiting, I
Yes.
think, because if something happens to that place, to that thing, to that person,
Mhm.
then then your floor is a little bit hard to walk,
Yes, I agree.
right? So I don't know, but I only have this experience of traveling, of living in
Mhm.
different places. I think it's just what we're used to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I do like having a ceiling over my head and everything, but
Mhm.
I don't really mind the location. I just mind if I have nature,
Mhm.
close to me, and and if I have like good relationships, and that's it.
Mhm.
But like the place itself, mm,
Mhm. I
yeah.
agree. For me, I think I've been thinking a lot about whether I want to move back to Europe because I find that it's much closer to my own culture if I have
Mhm.
one. Is European, and I think I want to move back to Europe. I'm not 100% on the idea yet, but just something I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I think you should give it a try.
Yes, why not?
Yeah, I think so. And like, what's the worst thing that can happen?
I can always move back.
You can
Exactly.
always move back.
Mhm.
That is always a like, this is nothing to do with the topic, but in regards to changing jobs and stuff like that.
Mm.
I once heard a person say, I don't know who was it, but he was like, it wasn't Gary V, probably because he says stuff like that. So, and he was like, you can always find a shitty job.
Exactly. Yes, you
Like
can.
seriously, people are so scared, and I'm telling you, I'm scared as well because I've achieved a certain, you know, a certain lifestyle that I'm kind of
Yes.
comfortable with it, and I
Mhm.
like it. I don't want to go, I don't want to go
Mhm.
back. I don't want to come
But
change.
you might be able to live a better life than like what you can see for
It,
yourself right now.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So if we settle here, and then, well, you have to follow your heart. That's all I'm going to
I
say.
agree. So let me ask you something. If you had a choice, and with like your children, for example,
Yeah.
would you want your children to have had the same experience that you had growing up,
No.
good and bad? No?
No, I don't want them to have the same experience. I want to have a
Okay.
more rich experience.
In
I,
what way?
if I would have kids, I would say, hey, your mom is African, right? She
Mhm.
was born in Africa. Hey, I lived in Portugal. Hey, this is
Mhm.
what people do, you know?
Mhm.
And the thing is that I lived very isolated. And that's
Okay.
sad. That's just,
Mhm.
in general, it's just very sad. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And this was due to the fact that we were in a different culture and country, but also due to the fact of my family issues going on.
Okay.
So no, I wouldn't. I don't want my kids to have my experiences. Like if I ever have kids, which I'm not going to have kids, but if I do have kids, like
Uh-huh.
I would not wish them my experience.
That's so
Uh,
opposite because for me, I would want them to have the same experience, even though it was
really,
very hard and very difficult.
yeah.
And like you said, sometimes isolating. I love the person I am today, and I love that I'm so multicultural and I'm able to
Mhm.
connect with people from all cultures, and I'm open-minded and adaptable. And I
Yeah.
want my kids to have those same experiences, and to know that like not to be attached to one culture, one way of doing things, but to know that you can do it in many different ways.
Yeah, and I'm happy with who I am as well, but I just think that you can do things either exposing people.
Mhm.
I saw videos on YouTube on like spoiled kids going to different countries and have like cultural shock.
Yeah.
I have my boyfriend who has lived in Spain since forever, until
Mhm.
he decided to move to German, Greece,
Mhm.
India, and he's pretty much like me, and he didn't have to go through everything that I have been through.
Yeah.
So what happened to him is that he moved a lot of times like I did, from house
Mhm.
to house, living in the countryside and then living in the city, and he was very
Mhm.
small, like several times. And also he was exposed to different people you know
Mhm.
his parents are artists, so they met different people from different countries. They traveled a lot, and
Mhm.
here you have a person who didn't have to go through all that I have been through, and he's living,
Yes.
whole and traveled. And I just, in general, I just,
Uh-huh.
that idea that like what we have been through made us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. But like, you know,
It
if
doesn't have
it's
to be
not
this hard.
necessary, if it's not necessary,
Yes.
right? If you can provide in a different way, if you can
Uh-huh.
educate, if you can give different experiences, like why not? You know what I mean? Like why
So you
something?
would want to raise your child in the same country until they were 18.
No, I would move around. I would probably do the same. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I would move. I would just approach it in a different way. Because
Okay.
if I would have kids, I would move for sure. you
Okay.
know, I would I would probably try to do what I'm doing now, which is like living in purpose, and then show them that
Okay.
that's the thing.
Mhm.
But I would do things differently.
Mhm.
I wouldn't isolate them. I would
Mhm.
try to make them feel proud of who they are.
Yes,
Because let me tell you, suffering stops when you accept who you are.
I
Because when
agree.
I'm like, I'm gonna use my freaking hair, I don't care what you say. Everybody was like, oh, I love your hair. Oh, you are so beautiful. Like when I started feeling beautiful, when I started feeling like
Yes.
I'm black, I'm beautiful, I'm cool, I'm from Africa, what's up? Everybody just started like, and before I was just
Yes,
like a
because you
loser.
change your demeanor. You change your whole
Yes, I
persona.
accept who I am. And
Yes.
if I have kids one day, which I'm not going to have, I would love them to do so. And when I work with kids, and when I
Yeah.
see like my Asian kids or my black kids, I'm
Mhm.
always complimenting them. I'm like,
Yeah.
hair is lovely. I love the braids and everything,
Yeah.
because it's different when you embrace where you come
I
from.
agree. Yes.
So I would not wish them that, what I've been
Mhm.
through.
I know what you mean. Thank you for explaining that
Oh
further
my
and the
God, I
humor.
was very passionate because I really felt it. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
not necessary, like let's not make the same mistakes.
Uh-huh. I agree. Yeah. This has been such a fascinating topic, and I think we could talk maybe even more about it. But we also
Yeah.
want to hear from our audience. Are you a third culture child? Have you moved around, and what was your experience? Did you fit in? Did you develop your own culture? How did you get about? Like who do you identify with today? You know what I mean? Like today, I say I'm a Bosnian American. Like that's what I say. I'm was born in Bosnia and now I'm living in America, and so I'm a Bosnian American,
Yeah.
and that's what I say.
Listen, if you want a part two, just let us know and just specify what you want us to talk about, because I'm sure that we're going to end this episode and I'm going to be like, we should have spoke about this and that, because it's such a rich topic, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it
But
is.
yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. This was so lovely. I hope you enjoyed it.
Hmm.
And by the way, we were drinking tea today as well,
Yes, we were.
especially me. And what are you drinking, Ivana?
Peppermint tea.
Okay, I'm drinking this like spicy chai.
Oh, okay, nice.
And it says, doing anything out of compassion will never be wrong.
And that's gonna be a great segue into our next week's episode. So tune in.
Yeah, next week's episode, since you are already here, you are a very good subscriber. Like, you got to this point. We're going to tell you, and you're going to know what we're going to talk about next week. So, we're going to be, how was it? We're going to analyze
Hmm.
quotes. You
Yes,
know,
we are.
those cheesy quotes we see online? We're going to analyze them. Okay,
Yes, we are.
bye
Sounds
bye.
good. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.